first of all for this opportunity. Though we are sisters, we are first and foremost friends. Yeah. So thank you. Okay, my husband and I had a very, will I say, turbulent relationship the first 7 years of our marriage. It led to us saying it's over. Let's go our separate ways. But the beautiful thing about it was when we got to that crossroad, we decided to ask ourselves questions. What's the truth? And what is it that is popular but is destructive in our marriage? And by the time we're able to decipher and dissect these things, we realize that popular opinions does not necessarily mean right tools that will save or to keep your marriage private. So we have to throw away popular opinions for the things that our marriage needed. And one of the things we realized that we actually worked on was submission. What is submission? And knowing my sister, I know she will ask me to share one particular story. That story for her is it. But before I share it, I want to remind you, or rather I want to ask you a question. Just ask yourself, is submission a marriage word? Is submission a life word? It's very key we must ask ourselves that. No one tell me, when we go to church, I just say, submit, and I'm asking, for God's sake, submission is a life word. If I get to church and I'm wearing a bra and a pants in church, I'm a rebellious person. But when I wear things according to the church pattern I'm going to, I'm submitting. So when I go to school and school starts for 8 a.m. and I get to school by 12 noon, I'm not submitting to authority. So every institution has rules that we all must submit to. If I'm in the UK, you lived in the UK for some years. When you were in the UK, what did you do? You would drive on, I think, which hand? Right hand. And we drive the other way. I would say, no, I must drive the other way. I'm not submitting to the authority there. So submission is a life word. So do I share the story?
I think it's a very important story, so please listen.
Okay, this story actually happened to my husband and myself a few years into our marriage, to be precise. I was serving when I got married, and usually I said at the kitty I would travel and come back. So I just came back, and they did. I was told that we're going to have our roll call, a head count. Thank you. I know it's been years, it's been years. So, thanks for that correction. Head count. So, and of course, you have to be present for your head count. And I just returned, and I was pregnant for our daughter, our first child. And my husband and I had agreed I would travel, so I began to pack. As I began to pack, I just had an intuition and a picture, live picture of where I had an accident, and I was among those that died during this journey. And I went out and I said, something happened right now, and I was literally shaking. And he said to me, you just don't want to travel. If I get back home, you must have left this house. So he dropped the money on the table and left. But as I was packing, I literally had fear all over me. Goosebumps all over me. So I left, and I was living in a BQ there. So I went to our landlady and I said, ma'am, I have a problem. I think that something is wrong with this journey. And she said, what's your husband's stake? And I said, my husband said I should travel. She said, that's it. If your husband says you should travel, that's it. That's fine. That's the final voice you should listen to. And I left and I began to pack again, and I had real fear. So I couldn't even drive. That's how scared I was. I took a bike and I went straight to a friend. He's a pastor friend, and actually met my husband through him. So I got there, and he was in a meeting, and I sat down, and I kept hearing him say, what God says is final, something in that trend. But after the conversation he was having, I had time with me, and I shared what I was experiencing, and he said to me, your husband is the final say. If he says you should go, then you should go. But while he was having the teachings for that evening, what I heard was that God is the final say. So I left him, I took a bike back home, and I lay on the floor and I began to wail. And I heard clearly, if you go, you will not return. So I called a friend who I was going to travel with, and I said to him, God will go with you, I won't be able to go with you. He was already at the park waiting for me, and I prayed for him, and he left. My husband came in a short while after, and obviously was already scolding me, and we were quarreling about it, and my phone rings. And it's this young guy's phone who was incidentally in an accident around Ibadan Expressway. People died in it, and he had a small fracture, and that was the last call on his phone. And it was then it dawned on my husband what really was at stake. So when we demand submission from our wives, hear what I was saying? It would have taken few minutes to pray with me to know why I felt that way. Then it would have taken few minutes to say, is there any other way out of this situation than traveling today? These are the questions he would have asked. So submission is not a command, not a slavery. It's a relationship where you understand the need of who is following you and how to address their issues in time. Basically.
So you see why I love the story. It actually goes a long way to show us that submission is important, but how to go about it is even more important. The story, okay, it's like a lot of men have lost their lives while giving birth, simply because their husband did not believe in CS or did not believe in blood transfusions, and they needed those information. I know the funny thing is that God will reveal things to us, and you have to get to that point and have a relationship with God that you're sensitive in the spirit. And even when your husband says you must do this, why don't you pray about it? Why don't you tell him, my husband, pray about this? And that's the importance of also marrying someone that knows or fears God, because this person can take 1 minute to pray, things will go better in our homes. So I love the story. I hope you learned something from this particular story. So we are moving forward now. We're going to talk about submission in terms of our country, Nigeria. What's happening in Nigeria? What can submission change in Nigeria? Because I think our problem in Nigeria is also the problem of submission. We are going back to marriage.
I actually think sorry for position now. I think it's a problem of leadership. You know, because at home, our leaders create rules they don't obey. So when they leave the home front, they go out hungry to eat because they feel that they are above the law. So if we create leaders who understand that leadership is also a submissive role, we will not have a better nation. So we have marriages where husbands tell their wives and children not to drink and not to come home by 10, but they are not home by 1 a.m.
Not leading by example.
Yes, that's it. So when we cry about the nation, we're actually crying about the family units. Everything we are seeing in our nation, the smaller problem began at home. Your son is above the law because he's a boy, but your daughter is not above the law. You've already set the tone for your home. The man goes out and gets married, and he believes he's doing the woman a favor getting married to her, and he's above the law. So your son can't get into the kitchen and boil hot water, and you tell him because he's a boy. Then he gets into marriage where the wife needs him to boil hot water because she's not feeling well, and it becomes a problem. So as mothers and fathers, I think we begin to need to address what leadership really means. Leadership is not someone who is above the law. It's someone who is submissive to the law and ready to lead by example so that others will submit.
As in, I love this, and that's the truth. If we can get this, I think Nigeria as a whole will be better. But now another thing that I think has been happening in our country, because now I'm actually relating it to Nigeria in this particular case, is that I think from an early age, the ladies or the girls, they are prepared for marriage. They are told, don't do this if you want to get married. You know, it's like marriage is the ultimate goal at the end of the day. That's what they are prepared for. But the boys, they don't prepare them for, they just teach them for life. So I think there's a disparity, because a particular sex is being prepared for marriage, the other sex is being prepared for life. And at the end, those two are supposed to come together and then live a good life. What do you think parents should do differently to make sure that there's a balance between the male and female child?
I think the problem is on both sides. So the woman who was taught that marriage was an ultimate goal gets into marriage and begins to prepare her child the way she knows how. But now, if you've been married for a while, you know that literally speaking, marriage is not an ultimate goal. It's part of the goal, but it's not the ultimate goal. So what we need to do now is we need to teach our daughters how to live life in spite of or with the marriage. So you see, it's the beauty. My marriage is beautiful today because I choose to be in the marriage. It's a choice I chose. But some people are in marriage and in bondage, they have no choice. The freedom to choose is the power you give your daughters and your sons. So the problem is we teach our daughters to value marriage above every other thing, even their relationship with God and even with you. Then you teach your sons to value their space above every other thing. But see, if you teach your children how to live life, how to have empathy for the next door neighbor, whether it's a boy or a girl, male or female, how to understand that their choices will create a catalyst for the nation, how to understand that they are the solution providers for the problems around them. That is what we should be teaching our children. Don't tell your children, get married and things will be alright. Tell them that you are the solution, whether you are married or single. Don't tell your sons, get married so that you can have children. Tell them there are children that need mentoring now. What are you doing as a single young man or a woman? So what we have done is that we are still teaching our children. I was also a problem. I'm a product of such teaching. And sometimes we do it knowingly or unknowingly. I remember one day, if you could help me, could I chip in this? I remember one day our son, I said, son, you have to go to the kitchen today. And he just turned to me and said, mom, it's a woman's job. Oh boy! I said, Echi, 21st century wife. And I said, no. So I have to have a conversation with myself. Where did we miss it? So I realized that because I was used to, you see, we actually replay what we're used to. It takes an intentional person, we set goals to rechange that thought pattern or rethink it for the good of the home. So I had to have a real look. After having a real look, I realized that I was the problem. So I had to have a real talk with my husband. So one of the key things we did was my husband had to go into the kitchen. So my husband had to take his boys into the kitchen on Sundays. By the time we did it for several months, the boys literally go to the kitchen by themselves. So my daughter began to also have family because you know what? I didn't know. My daughter felt she struggled. By the time the boys were going to the kitchen, she struggled. She felt that they were taking her space. Is her space in the kitchen or is her space on the board table and also in the kitchen? These are the questions we must answer in the family unit. So when we go outside, the Okonjo Iwalas now will come out. The Buka Woshikans will stand. So these are questions, we are angry with the society, sis. We are even angry with ourselves. Should we be angry or should we begin to change it? So I made the mind to change mine. I may not change it so well in my own situation because there are some things that are really bad. But our children are clean slates. Whatever we let them do now, they become. So we have a better place in this country.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so moving forward, I'd like us to talk about submission in marriage, the biblical way. Because let's think about it. A lot of Christians will say, no, that's not what the Bible says. And they are very quick to quote the Bible. So I want us to look at that submission. What does the Bible really say about submission? And how does it apply to today's life and to our lives as women?
As much as we read the Bible, three things you must understand about the Bible. Number one is the Bible has cultural placements. It was written at certain times, and those things also play a part in how it's written. But if you look closely, how to understand the Bible is the second part of it. Is you have to marry 2 or 3 scriptures to get a balanced view of what that particular thing is saying. So you can come to this part and read, and the culture infiltrated into it. But by the time you read it in 3 different parts, you get a holistic picture of what it really means, and that applies in submission. So there are areas they will say one should not speak. The question is, what was being said at that time? Was that the constant thing Paul said? It wasn't. The same Paul that said the woman shouldn't speak and not be heard. It's the same person that called Priscilla before Aquila. It's the same person that said that submission one another, and that's Ephesians 5:21. One to another. So, and for I and my husband, and I say to all Christians, can you question what you read? Do you have these Bible study references you can go through that give you an explicit understanding of what you're reading? Can you converse and even apply it? Because let me tell you the truth of the matter. Truth doesn't change. If you apply something right, it shows. So if you apply that it's not showing, are you missing the definition of what it really is meant to be? One time I also had our issues. We also had that problem. So, and even I struggle with submission. And because in Nigeria, the woman that is outspoken now, look at me now. You can see I'm talking now. I'm not even allowing my host to even put one word. So imagine me, and because I'm an outspoken woman, doesn't mean that I'm not a submissive wife. No. So because I'm fulfilling my dreams, doesn't mean I'm not a submissive wife. No. So we now have to ask ourselves, what is submission? So the number one thing I think every couple, every single listening is to go and delve into different versions of Ephesians 5:21. And it says submitting one to another. And I repeat again, submitting one to another. What does it mean? That day you said yes I do. You said yes I do to certain terms and conditions. To then do us a path. You invited God into that's not submission. So we'll take it further after the wedding. We take the thing and say, okay, what does it mean to us in our marriage? What kind of marriage do we want to build? If we want to build an empire, you cannot tell your wife to be in the kitchen she has a bigger shoulder than me. She forces herself into this sport, she's going to be uncomfortable, it could tear. But now, if this sport is submission, and she understands submission, she can get a material like this and sew it to suit her unique thing. Submission did change, but we tweaked it to suit her personality and the marriage she's into. Now I'm saying to everybody here, that's what marriage is. We are submitting, but there are women that the Lord has put a man to be the Deborahs of our time. So they are going to be in the bank field, they are going to be heads of CEOs. Their own submission is a bit different. Sometimes they'll be home by 10 p.m. So you cannot take them and put them in a box of a teacher who needs to be home by 5 p.m. So what's submission? So submission begins with where are we going to? Then what kind of submission tools and leadership tools do we need to get to where we are going to? So I think
that's sure. She has broken it down so much. You see a lot of men celebrating Okonjo Iweala. She has done it. How many men will allow their wife to shine? That's the question. You want your wife to be a CEO, to be able to do exploits, but you want her to cook fresh meal for you every morning, afternoon and night. What time will she have to develop herself? There's a sacrifice everybody must put to make the other person shine. And you're not better for it if your wife does not feel like this because she got married. So submission is something that, as she said, it works differently for different marriages. Don't say because my friend does it in their home like this, I must do it in my home like that. No, find what works for you. Just make sure that in everything, both of you are allowing each other to do what God has called them to do. This is mainly for the Christians. It's important to remember that.
Can I say something? I kept on remembering. Remember, I said that submission is a two-way coin, meaning that submission, the level of submission you get is dependent on the level of leadership, and both require to be well-informed of where we're going to, well-informed of how we want to go about it, well-informed of where you will lead, where I will submit, and where we have to work in tandem. So what happens to us is that we take leadership. If I'm a leader in the banking sector, is different from a leader in the technology sector. Is different from a leader in the market sector. So now what we're saying is, when you now say leadership in your marriage, it's okay, I'm married, you have to identify who you're married to, how it's going to work, and the kind of children you want to bring up. I want to bring up what class citizens. So literally, the way my husband is training, the way we are training and how my husband and I live our lives is different from someone who wants to just have a child. Do you get? So we live by example and we allow our children question our motives. That's different from different things. So submission requires a depth of understanding who you are permitted to lead you. And the leader needs to communicate for you to believe in them. The problem of Nigeria is that at home we have not acknowledged and given a good example of what leadership and submission means. That's why when we go outside in the country, you ask your leader what's going on, they take offense. Because at home, our leaders take offense when you ask them what's going on. And we must come to a place where even if you are submitted as a wife at home, there are places they are leading outside. You also take offense when they talk to you. Leadership is accountability. The more accountable you are as a leader, the more submission level you will get from your followers. The more can get. Are you going to say that?
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. I think she has said it all. Now, another area I would like to talk about, though she has actually talked about it, but I want us to go into detail, is leadership. Leadership in the home. If you're married to somebody that doesn't have your best interest at heart, how will the person lead you right? That's a very important question. So when you say leadership, you should be able to follow somebody that you know has the best. If someone that's cheating on you, he doesn't have the best interest.
Not even for you, not even for the child,
exactly.
and not for the marriage itself.
And then how do you think that the wife will be submissive to somebody like that? Because she already feels like this person is not even doing what is right. So I'm looking at the point where men feel like we are leaders, we are living our home. They are not even those, they are not even like,
Sorry, even maybe let me pause in. We had a counseling session, and the man said he's on the driver's seat. He's had an affair that has brought him 3 children, and he said he's still in control of his marriage. And the wife is saying, "Can you hear him?" Now there are also some women who are making mistakes consistently, and they are saying, "I understand my husband. Can you hear yourself?" And that's why I said you have to have information. And I told the man, how can you say that you've had an affair that have birthed 3 children from the same affair, and you're telling your wife that you're in control of the relationship? My husband said to him, my brother, you're not in control. You're not even in the driver's seat. You're not even in the passenger seat. We don't
outside watching. See what's happening.
So leadership needs to be redefined. Unfortunately, in this generation, it might not be redefined fully, but we can begin to give ourselves a 20-year goal as families and individuals to begin to redefine leadership in our small spaces. I'm a leader and a founder of Human Life Initiative. You know what I do when we're still growing? It means I arrive on time. It means that if the staffs are not ready to clean up, who does the clean up? The leader.
The leader is a servant.
Oh yes,
It's not
yes.
the leader because you want to leader. Are you serving? That's a very important question.
Are you serving in the place that what you are leading needs you? So let me see, I'm serving by doing money, but what it needs is for me to be present. I have failed as a leader. So you have to identify the need of your people or your family, and then shape yourself into becoming that. So let me tell you, leadership is not
It's responsibility. A lot of responsibility.
You know, it's not fun. Let me tell you, if I have a choice, I won't leave anything. It costs money, it costs selfless sacrifice,
Time.
and sometimes you don't get a thank you for it.
Yes, very important. Sometimes you don't get to thank you. So, okay, what would be your advice for young ladies about to get married? For those in marriage that are struggling with submission, what would you advise them to do different? How would you advise them to live to be better wives or to actually be better women as well?
I will say with you from my perspective how I set myself free. I think the best story to tell is your story. By the time I got to the place where I understood that my husband said I am a woman, and it meant that for him to understand leadership and submission, it was a process for us for years. So for me to maintain my position and posture as a good wife, I had to fall in love with Jesus Christ. So you see, I tell my husband this day, we say it as a joke in my house, but it's true. I have 2 husbands. Hey, don't shout, don't shout. I have 2 husbands. I'm in love and married to Christ. I'm in love and married to my husband. So when my husband falls short, which all of us do, I am faithful to the first husband whose rules I obey. But I do not stop being faithful there. I address our situation in ways that do not hurt my husband's self-respect or make him feel that he's not smart enough. That's where they say the wise woman builds her house. How do you send forth that communicate such a way that your husband does not feel threatened of his leadership space? So I call it the sandwich. I praise my husband, I criticize, and I praise. Let me explain. Let me say. Let's say my husband spoke to me the way I didn't like. I'm my husband. You are looking so handsome today. I was just admiring you. She's laughing. But the way you spoke to me, I nearly lost sight of that. That's fine. But notwithstanding, you're still my home. And then I say in such a way again and again till he gets it. But he understands that I didn't call him a fool. I didn't talk to the fool in him. I spoke to the king in him. And usually, if he's a wise man, because not all men or all women are wise, if he's a wise man, he's going to reflect on what I've said and take cognizance of it. Now, he might not get it right the first day, but he'll reduce it. But after a consistent time of correction with this sandwich, what happens? It becomes better for him. So you're married, because if you're married to someone that's always criticizing you, you want to be married to the person. So learn to praise, criticize, praise. It works. Try it.
It works. Okay, so you guys can drop your comments in the comment section. Let's talk about it. What do you think? What do you want to know? We can actually do a full edition. If you can tell us the questions, drop your questions, we'll answer you and all of that. So hope you guys learned something. Do you have any last words for them?
I have a last one that you might not like. I watched a video where the young man said if a wife is on top, means that she has taken you solved your leadership of her husband. What's your take on that? Remember that leadership is service. Remember that it's more of responsibility and work. Don't confuse it with the physical things that really don't work. Thank you so much.
Okay guys, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels. I'll be dropping our channel in the description box. Subscribe, like, share this video, and most importantly, work on your marriage. Okay, so if you're in the Lagos vicinity, I'm one of it to be precise. We're having a I'll be dropping the link in the description box. Make sure you come, make it. If you want your marriage to be better, you have to work on it deliberately.
Oh yes.
Because deliberate people make deliberate efforts and get deliberate results.
Yes.
So guys, don't miss it. Making a day with us on the 10th of April.